Listen, something strange is going on here. It's been a month since we fired you know who. And have we heard even one update since? Have we even heard one rumor, a name drop, or anything like that? No. And on a week where the Mavericks don't have a game until Friday, we have some time to dive deeper. We have some time to unpack. Well, again, no names have been dropped or anything like that, but the day one when they're hired, what are some major questions that they have to answer? That's what I want to dive into on today's episode. Turns out there's a lot of interesting storylines if you've really been paying attention. But here to walk you through it all, I am your host, Ethan, the advisor Clayton, and this is Your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome. Y'all better behave. All right. As I mentioned, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of what if scenarios that we could dive into. Again, it's been a month since we fired Nico Harrison, and it seems that the Mavericks are going to be in no rush to fill that void, right? And in the meantime, we have interim co-GMs in Michael Finley and Matt Riccardi. Depending on who you ask, those are very competent GMs that we can definitely have faith in for this next chapter. Matt Riccardi is a young rising star in kind of the front office conversation. I don't know what we could give either of them credit for at this point with their front office involvement with the Mavericks, but the point is still the same. We do not have an acting GM, right? We do not have the guy in the seat yet. And there have been no updates. There have been no name drops. There's been nothing. And so kind of curious about that. I would like to see, today's date is December the 9th. You got to think that we're just days away from that announcement happening. We're moments away from the Sean bomb. And at a minimum, I think we need to have this question answered by Christmas, right? We need to bring in our next guy because there's a handful of games to be played between now and then. And I think the answer to the biggest question, what is our vision moving forward, is the one that needs to be answered sooner rather than later. Because again, if we go 5-0 in our next 5 games, where does that put us in this play-in push? Right now, we are a game back from being the 10 seed. If the season ended, us being in play-in contention, and many have rightfully argued don't want to be in that position, right? Because even if you do fight hard to get into the play-in and then you win that game, you're the 8th seed and you're going to be facing off with the Thunder in the first round. Who wants that? I don't necessarily want that. Don't get me wrong. However, I do think that we match up better with the Thunder than we showed on the court a couple days ago. But beside the point, we're not just a game back from the play-in tournament. We're about 6 games back from being out of the play-in tournament. Okay, so right now the Minnesota Timberwolves are the 6th seed. They have the inverse of our record. They are 16-9. We are 9-16. So 25 games in, we're not in the worst position in the world as far as making a playoff push. And considering the streak that we're on and the type of ball that we're playing, the high octane offense that we've been putting on the court, I don't think it's outside the realm of the possibility that we could go win 10 of the next 15 games, maybe 15 of the next 25, something like that. And all of a sudden we are in that 7-8 seed space, just a few games back from fighting and taking down someone like the Timberwolves. So it's very interesting. If you're the new GM or even the interim GMs and you're getting phone calls right now, trade offers, this and that, you got to first figure out, are we going to go for it? Are we going to try and go win some games? Are we going to go try and compete, not just in the play-in tournament, but make noise in the playoffs? Because, again, I think everybody agrees that a first-round matchup with the Thunder is a kiss of death. And there's going to be a lot of that over these coming years. If you're in that spot, exactly who you're going to face off in the first round. You got to answer that question first. Are you going to go for it? The second question are you going to answer is, if you aren't going to go for it and you are thinking team tank, Well, do we start by trading Anthony Davis? It was reported yesterday by Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated that, yes, the Mavericks are having internal and external conversations about trading AD. Okay, yeah, no groundbreaking news there. But that means we're getting calls, right? That means people are paying attention to what we're putting on the floor right now. They're seeing that the Mavericks are a much better team with AD on the court than without. And whether or not he has an awesome game or a stinker, right? The Mavericks just simply are better. So if you're an Eastern Conference team and you see that the conference is just wide open for the taking, a move like trading for Anthony Davis could be that needle mover, right? Where you're all of a sudden putting up 120 points a game, you're winning 6 of 7 games or whatever that might look like. I think the Eastern Conference is where Anthony Davis belongs, but that's beside the point. You got to answer that question. People are going to be picking up the phone. They're going to be calling. And I don't know at this moment if the Mavericks are going to be waiting to make any moves at all until we have hired a new GM. But that's kind of what the things are indicating right now. Again, no updates on who the GM is going to be or what that search is looking like. But we are getting phone calls. We are having internal and external conversations about Anthony Davis. Now, moving on, if your team tank and you want to fully blow it up, you have to ask, do you also want to trade Kyrie Irving? I think we quickly find an answer to that question whenever you go on Twitter and you see that tweet from Scoop B that the Minnesota Timberwolves are interested in bringing Kyrie Irving to come play alongside Anthony Edwards. Obviously, they're interested in that. They've had a point guard problem for a while now, and you put two elite guards on the court at the same time, and magical things happen. The Kyrie Luka backcourt experience was a testament to that very type of ball play. However, okay, I don't think the Mavericks are interested in anything the Timberwolves have to offer right now, unless it's Anthony Edwards, of course. But they're not going to trade Anthony Edwards when they want to bring in a guy to play alongside Anthony Edwards. Duh, right? So Minnesota Timberwolves, you can take your interest and put it where the sun don't shine, right? We don't want Julius Randle, who we would likely have to take on in a trade like this to match salary. Some may say, well, Julius Randle is a Dallas guy. Bring him home. We are stacked at the power forward position. I don't think we need to bring in another ball hog type of player that likes to shoot a bunch of mid-rangers. So that I'm out on that. I'm out on the Naz Reid experience. I think he's a great basketball player. I think he should just stay in Minnesota. A trade package that was mentioned was, I believe it was Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Rob Dillingham, and a couple of firsts for Kyrie Irving. As much as I like those first-round draft picks, no. We're not trading with Minnesota if I have anything to say about it. So, yeah, the GM comes in. They're going to have to answer, are we tanking? Are we trading AD? If we trade AD, do we go ahead and trade Kyrie Irving? It's been reported before that the Mavericks want to hold on to Kyrie Irving and that they view him as a long-term piece. They want him to be mentoring Cooper Flagg, as opposed to Anthony Davis, who, again, Chris Mannix reported the Mavericks don't view him as a long-term guy. So a lot of questions floating around just on whether or not we trade players or keep our roster the same and continue to compete. But in light of competing, if you want to compete long-term, the GM has to answer the question, are we going to sign Ryan Nembhard to a standard contract as soon as possible? I think if you do want to compete and have that high-octane offense that we have been seeing on the floor, you need to make that a priority, right? And from what I've been told, I believe the reporting was we cannot do anything roster-wise until January 6th because of our status in the second apron. There's not going to really be any flexibility to waive a guy and then add a guy back onto the books until January 6th. So we still have a few weeks to let that one settle, but I definitely don't think that how Ryan Nembhard is playing is a fluke, right? We're a much better offensive team with an actual playmaker, table setter type of guy. And Ryan Nembhard is just the guy for that role. Go ahead and sign him day one that you are able to do that. That shouldn't really even be a question, but depending on what we answer, the answer to the other questions that we talked about so far, that could change some of the little smaller decisions that we make about, whether or not we convert his contract. I said smaller decisions. I guess that's a pretty huge one because we're going to be running pretty low on his eligible games to play at the NBA level pretty quickly. So that's definitely a question that needs answering. And basically, a lot of the guys that signed contract extensions over the summer, they are not going to be eligible to trade until December 15th. So 6 days from now, I would love for us to have an answer to the GM question, but at a minimum by Christmas, because a lot of those guys that signed those extensions over the summer will be eligible to be traded on the 15th. And I think we're going to see a really interesting next couple months between, what the Mavericks are doing and what other teams across the league are doing. Ever since last February, when we traded a 25-year-old superstar in his prime, it seems like really anything is possible around the deadline. Okay, you've got teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers that could be sellers or buyers, depending on how you look at it. It was reported yesterday that teams are monitoring the Darius Garland situation. And by the way, that is not a Mavericks-related comment. We are not monitoring Darius Garland. Now, there's nothing to confirm or deny what I just said. I'm just saying personally, I am not interested in his services, right? We don't need to bring in another injury-prone guy that can marginally shoot. He is a good table setter, but listen, I'm not monitoring that situation. I don't want anything to do with that. But Cleveland, the Clippers, they're teams that have stumbled out the gates that, could try and go all in and make moves to be more competitive, or they could say, you know what, this is not panning out the way that we saw it panning out, so let's just kind of blow it up and recoup some draft capital. There's so many things that what other teams do could impact how the Mavericks view, their next few weeks and couple of months heading into the trade deadline. Again, are we going to go for it and try and win games? Are we going to try and really make a push into that 6th seed so we don't have to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round of the playoffs? If we do that, well then guys, I think we can beat a 3 seed, right? I think that would conceivably be like the Rockets. Yeah, I think we can compete with the Rockets in a 7-game series, no problem. But then you do all of that just to face the Thunder in the next round. Yeah, I think it could be worth it. I like seeing Coop level up with his experience. I like seeing, or I like thinking about what a couple of playoff series could do for that cat. I could be fun. But if you are Team Tank, are you going to trade AD? Are you going to also trade Kyrie Irving? Are you going to throw caution to the wind, make some more win now trades and try to compete? Are you going to sign Ryan Nembhard to a standard contract the second that you can? Right, guys, these are the storylines that we need to be paying attention to. And in the meantime, we still haven't gotten concrete reports on how long Derek Lively is going to be out. If it is discovered that he's going to be out for the rest of the season, right, we have an even more troubling question to start entertaining here, because he will be extension eligible this summer. And if we view him as our part of our long-term plan, which we have every reason to think that we should, if he's going to continue on this trajectory of getting hurt over and over and over and having not just little injuries, but big devastating injuries, does that change how the Mavericks view him at the trade deadline? Right? There's just so many things out there. And, again, with us not having any games until Friday of this week, by the way, nice little break. Anybody who is nursing an injury like AD, your finger, get it right this week. Okay. All we can do is focus on kind of the bigger storylines at play here across the league and within our front office. And, I think, if we don't get a GM announcement soon, Dallas Mavericks Twitter is going to rip itself apart with the tank debate. Okay. So I'd like to see some movement on the GM search real soon. Again, December 15th is a big day as to whenever a lot of players who signed contract extensions are eligible to be traded. January 6th is a big date for us, because that is the first day that we are eligible to convert Ryan Nembhard's contract from 2-way to a standard. Okay. And in the meantime, we're getting a lot of calls from other teams about Anthony Davis. And apparently people are really interested in Kyrie Irving. I can't blame them for being interested, and I'm not going to fault them for that. But again, Minnesota, I'm looking at you. Not interested in what you have to offer. Lose my number. Okay. But really, guys, thanks for stopping by. That's all I've got for you today. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment, do all that jazz. I'd love to continue building this community. We're at 34 subscribers now. I want to get to 50 by the end of the year. So share it with your friends that are Mavs fans or people that just love talking hoops. That's why I say, all are welcome, but y'all better behave like this. Yeah, this is a fan-led Mavericks podcast. But if you're a team across the league, let me know what you think about Anthony Davis in the comment section about what you think a trade or what you'd be willing to give up from your squad for Anthony Davis, or maybe an outsider's perspective on what we should do with Kyrie would be interesting to hear. But Mavs fans, just keep on keeping on, party on, y'all be good, all that jazz. See you around.